Josh stood by the window, staring at the fading colors of the evening sky. The world outside seemed calm, yet his thoughts were anything but peaceful. For months, he had believed that his future with Catie was clear. Despite the distance, the challenges, and the differences in their lives, he always felt that they could find a way to make things work. At the same time, Catie sat quietly in her apartment, scrolling through old photos on her phone. Each picture brought back memories of laughter, shared dreams, and moments that once felt perfect. Looking at those memories made her smile, but it also reminded her of the questions that still remained unanswered. Their relationship had been built on hope and determination. Whenever obstacles appeared, they promised each other they would keep moving forward. But recently, things had become more complicated than either of them expected. A few weeks earlier, they had met for an important conversation. Both knew that the discussion could shape the future of their relationship. Neither realized just how difficult that conversation would become. They met at a quiet cafe on a cool afternoon. Around them, people chatted and enjoyed their meals. But at their table, an unusual silence hung in the air. Catie finally broke the silence. "Do you think we still want the same future?" she asked softly. Josh looked down for a moment before answering. "I think we do," he said, "but getting there may be harder than we imagined." Catie nodded. "Sometimes it feels like we're planning different lives." Josh understood exactly what she meant. For months, they had been discussing where they would live, how they would manage their careers, and what sacrifices might be necessary. Every answer seemed to create another question. Neither wanted to lose the relationship. Neither wanted to give up their dreams. And that was where the challenge began. A few days later, during a video call, Catie noticed how tired Josh looked. "You've been working nonstop," she said. Josh smiled weakly. "Things have been busy lately." "You always say that." "Because it's true. But when do you have time for yourself?" Josh paused. He didn't have an answer. The truth was that he had been pushing himself harder than ever. He wanted to create a stable future, but in doing so, he was unintentionally creating distance between himself and Catie. That distance worried her, not because she doubted his feelings, but because she feared they were slowly growing apart. A week later, Josh made a surprise decision. Without telling Catie, he booked a trip to visit her. When she opened the door and saw him standing there with a smile, she was completely shocked. "Josh?" Surprise! For the first time in weeks, they laughed without worrying about difficult conversations. They spent the day walking through the city, sharing stories, and revisiting places that had become meaningful during their relationship. Everything felt easier. Everything felt familiar. For a moment, it seemed as though all of their problems had disappeared, but reality eventually caught up with them. That evening, Catie shared some unexpected news. "I got an opportunity," she said carefully. Josh immediately smiled. "That sounds amazing." "It is." "Then why don't you seem excited?" Catie looked away. "Because accepting it would mean moving." Josh's smile slowly faded. "Moving where?" "A different city." The room suddenly felt much quieter. Josh knew how important this opportunity was to her. She had worked for years to reach this point. At the same time, the news created a new challenge neither of them had anticipated. "What would happen to us?" Josh finally asked. "I don't know." Her answer was honest. Maybe too honest. For the next several hours, they discussed every possible solution. Long distance again, relocating together, delaying plans, compromising. Each option seemed possible at first, but every solution came with its own complications. Late that night, they sat together in silence. Neither wanted to pressure the other. Neither wanted to make a selfish choice. Catie finally spoke. "I don't want you to give up your goals for me." Josh looked at her. "And I don't want you to give up yours for me." The words carried more emotion than either expected. Because deep down, both